Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. In 3, 1, Gary Kroger.
Welcome, everyone, to the Gary and Kenny Show. I'm Gary Kroger in Waterloo, Iowa. I am joined by...
I'm thinking I might be Harry Belafonte.
I like that.
That's kind of cool.
He's around, right?
He's still around, right?
Yeah, he's still around.
Huh.
Yeah, he's one of those that you don't see him that much. So there are lots of celebrities that I thought were dead who aren't.
Yeah.
And, I call them Abe Vigodas, even though I think Abe is now dead, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
For a long time, I thought he was dead, and he wasn't.
And I was telling a story this past weekend. I was down in San Diego, and I was telling this story about Mel Brooks. And nobody at the table knew who Mel Brooks was.
What?
How old are these people? Well, it's not that. It's like, look at television. When we were young, we would see old movies.
Yes.
Old movie stars.
Yeah.
Where did they see any people? They wouldn't know who Harry Belafonte is, certainly.
Right.
Because.
Well, also, Kenny.
Where are they going to see a Harry Belafonte movie?
When we were young and there were only 3 networks and variety shows were king, that was the substance of variety shows, were the guests when, Jimmy Stewart would come out and John Wayne and Carol Channing. And so we were always given a heavy dose of the previous generation.
What's going to happen to this generation when we're gone? They won't know anybody.
I think we're all disposable now. I think about careers that hit the heights. And then I talk to young people and they go, I don't know who that is, to your point. Right. I go, how successful do you have to be to have a legacy and to last?
Yeah, it's getting tougher and tougher. So you are in the show, you're posting all the time. You're in the Fantasticks.
Yes, I am.
Has it been fantastic?
Well, here's, I don't know how interesting this is, but we often talk about.
I'll stop you if I.
We're in our mid-60s. Memorizing lines for me, Kenny.
Yeah.
Throughout my career as an actor on stage, and I've been on stage since 1971.
Oh my goodness.
I memorized lines just through the process of rehearsals.
Right.
And they'd say, we're off book now. And fine. I'm done. I never needed to cram.
Amazing.
I really have to work hard now. Songs, movement, dance steps.
You should try monologues. One of those. They have these app games. I actually tried one of these.
I play all those mind games.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes.
Do you subscribe to any?
No, I just download whatever. And even Wordle is kind of a mind game, but I play all the variations in reverse Wordle and all that.
I was doing a trial test, and I think it was called like Luminosity or whatever. And they have you do a free test to see how you do mentally.
See if you qualify for their app?
Yeah. So I do this free test and they do the results and they send me an email and it said, your results show you're really stupid. Not in those words. They use some other words, but they said, I'm below average.
Okay, but they're hooking you but use this app.
Exactly.
$6.99 and you'll be less stupid.
That's exactly right. So I was thinking, how stupid am I?
Well, did you fall for it?
No, I didn't. So I passed that test.
Okay. Well, I remember related to this when I was in college, I'm walking down the street and this couple come up to me and say, hey, would you like to take a personality test? And I go, well, thinking that I'm the most charming guy in the world. Certainly I did when I was 18, 19. I said, well, of course. So I take this test. They leave for 10 minutes and they come back with this evaluation that I have serious personality disorders.
Right.
And that the Church of Scientology is what I needed to become part of. And I realized the old,
Have you been watching Under the Banner of Heaven? It's on Hulu. It's remarkable with Andrew Garfield, and it's just based on a true story.
I've only heard about it and seen the poster art.
Well, if I was a Mormon, I would be really upset because it certainly doesn't shed a good light.
There are no positive Mormon stories.
Oh.
There are no movies or documentaries about Mormon life that really, or the very doctrine that come off.
But there's a lot of people. There's a whole freaking state of them, right?
Yeah.
I've met Mormons, and some of them are.
Well, we had a Mormon president. We've had one run for president. Nixon was a Mormon. Do you know that?
Nixon?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that at all.
Folks, check me on this, but I'm pretty sure Nixon was. And Romney's a Mormon.
Well, that I knew. I don't want to go into like bashing the Mormons. If you want to it's a great show and I recommend it. But if we are going to go into religion, I do have a story.
Well, then I think we are going into religion. Religion is always difficult. We're always, we don't want to offend necessarily, but I think we both have a similar religious point of view.
Right. But I was actually confronted with something this weekend that has happened before, but this was really unusual. So this past weekend, I don't know when this is going to happen, it might have been the other weekend, but it was Memorial Day weekend. And my son-in-law lives with my daughter and my 2 grandchildren in a beautiful home in San Diego, overlooking the harbor. And next door to them is this gorgeous family. The guy's a handsome dude. He's always out there playing with his kids. He has 2 blonde daughters that are classic California kids. They're wonderful. His wife is a blonde, very attractive woman. From afar, I just kind of envied them. Then we'd have conversations, over the driveway, and I would talk to him. And, it seemed all very normal. In a lot of ways, I was kind of like, wow, what a perfect, wonderful guy, a perfect family. The 2 girls, one I guess was maybe 6, the other one 4, comes over and plays with Nico, and they're just wonderful with the kid. So they're over, and we're having naturally hot dogs and hamburgers, and we're sitting outside. And somehow in the course of the conversation, he says, well, I've met Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I think that's what I said too. I said, okay. And so we take the bait, and now it's like, oh, and I'm saying, like, you sure you met Jesus Christ, or maybe you met my gardener Jesus? Are you sure this was Jesus?
You need some clarification.
Yeah.
I've met Jesus Christ.
This was the actual Jesus Christ.
Let me ask you a question.
This wasn't the Christ family down the street, right?
At that moment, when he said, I've met Jesus Christ, and you said probably, okay.
Yeah.
What are you thinking immediately in your mind? You want out of the situation? Are you thinking cuckoo?
Oh, that's a great question.
Are you curious?
I wanted to know more. I definitely want to know more. And I also want to tell you the truth. I immediately saw this for fertile ground for making fun of him. I really did. I thought
certainly for something,
because there was a lot of people around. I go, you know what? I could have fun with this guy.
Okay.
I don't need to be irate or whatever, but it just is. So anyhow, but yes, initially I wanted to hear more. But before, it wasn't like he said, oh, I met Jesus Christ. I was walking down the street and there was Jesus. We talked. It was like a story that started a long time ago in a far off place where he was having these issues and looking for himself and finding himself and moving from one place to another. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but when did you meet Jesus?
Right.
And he's like,
what was he
wait, no, I'll get to the Jesus thing. But in the meantime, I had a thing where I needed to know who I was and my identity and this, and I was going through these difficult times. It's a personal stuff, and he's going on and on. And I'm going, can we move along to the, because when Jesus actually shook his hand to him, can we move along to that? Right. Anyhow, it got to the point where he said there was a large speck up in the sky and it was coming towards him. And I guess the speck turned into Jesus and whatever. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, I had, went on with the usual thing. We were all trying to be very polite and nodding and all of us thinking of the same thing. Is he kidding us? Is this at some point? Is he going to do one of those? Gotcha.
Yeah.
But we kept kind of hoping, wait, because the story was really strange. So anyhow, they leave. And naturally, we all as a group do a collective looking around at each other. Like, did I hear? Was that? Yeah. And we all kind of started to digest what really happened.
Okay.
And it was like, fuck, that was weird. That's really strange. But here's the thing, Gary. Now I have a whole new light on this blonde family that lives next to them. I mean, it's like now I said to my daughter, your next door neighbor is a cult. You have a cult living next door. Suddenly the 2 beautiful blonde girls to me look like, children of the corn. Right.
Yeah. So, they were bred to look that way.
Yeah.
This was selective breeding.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So now it's like my whole impression, I'm going to go over the house and to see them or wave. But now when I see the 2 kids playing with Nico, I'm going to be like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do.
Well, you know what always strikes me with people who said they have had a vision of Jesus.
Yes.
And I haven't been at a barbecue where somebody said they met Jesus, but certainly I've read things and I've heard people talk about, I had this awakening where there was Jesus. There's a story recently, a little girl spoke to Jesus in her closet, and it's hitting all the evangelical websites going, proof that Jesus exists, right? Well, the question is, okay, what did Jesus look like? Because I promise you, Jesus looked like what was created in the 12th century to look like Jesus, which has been evolved into basically surfer Jesus.
Right.
Well, we know Jesus didn't look that way. We don't know anything. Biological reason a Semitic person at that time would look like the Jesus that was created for books by artists, in the
Well, here's something you could always challenge
century.
people to, but you can't challenge it because there's no talking to them. There is no physical, this is an absolute fact, no physical or corroborating evidence that Jesus Christ actually lived. They can look back in history and they can tell through physical things or documents, whatever, that Julius Caesar really existed. And there's all this corroborating evidence because other people saw him, and everybody described him in the same place.
If there could just be a bite mark on a stone, we could do
Julius Caesar we knew existed, right? But there was no mention of Jesus Christ until in the date they put it at was he would have been dead 50 years before anybody even wrote his name in a book. Right. So there's no physical, evidence that this guy was even a human being. Right. Well, I guess he wasn't. But was he a human being?
These are conversations I've had with my religious friends.
Yeah.
And they view the Bible as the proof, the fact that it's in there, it's infallible. It is a historical document. The mention itself is the proof.
I know.
And in fact, they say that the resurrection is the most confirmed, provable event in history because of all of the stories. And it's in the Bible. So that to them is...
We do the same thing with the Constitution.
Yeah. Yeah, it becomes this.
Do you know that in England they don't have a constitution?
Yes, I knew that.
And their system of the Magna Carta. Their system of governance is they try to make the world better or their lives better in the time frame they're in. So they will always adjust things. They don't have the argument, the litmus test of, well, is it in the Constitution? They don't have that.
And if it weren't for that monarchy, I would think that, which really isn't involved in government anymore. The Queen simply opens Parliament.
Right.
But they still do believe that there's royal blood that is divine.
No, I know that, but there's nothing that when somebody proposes a law that somebody can yell out and go, and it gets completely thrown out because that wasn't in the book. They didn't write that down.
Well, do you ever watch on C-SPAN or whatever Parliament in action in the houses?
I see clips. It is amazing to watch.
Well, it is amazing because they're actually very intellectual arguments, emotional, but in a way respectful as well. But they really roll up their sleeves, but it seems like they leave their anger at the door.
Well, that it is a lively discussion that they have. And yet we go over and they'll have one camera on Mitch McConnell at the podium just talking, and I'm going, boy, we suck. I mean, can't we get anybody speak a little bit more interesting and hold my attention? But this is horrible.
We are the movie of the week version of justice,
if that,
and legislation.
Yeah. Hey, can I ask a question? If you're taking questions,
I'm taking questions.
Tell me, what is the I don't know. I know this is the longest running show in history, right? Was it the Fantastic?
The Gary and Kenny? The Fantastics. Yes.
No, that just feels like a Gary
off-Broadway show in history. Now, maybe that makes it the longest.
But what is it about? I've heard of it, and I don't have a clue what it's about.
Well, I don't want to give up too much of it because
I'm not going to see your show.
It's very hard to describe. It's as if a bunch of players in the sort of almost Elizabethan tradition, like a touring company of players, are putting on this morality play. Now, but at the same time, it's not Elizabethan. Whenever you do the Fantasticks, it's contemporary. But as if in the tradition.
But it's a show about people putting on a show.
Yes. Now, at the same time, your character, mine in particular,
Right.
El Gallo, who's the narrator, I speak directly to the audience as well as to the cast.
El Gallo, does that mean like the guy in Spanish or something?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm a caballero. I'm a bandit, basically. I'm this.
So is the Fantasticks like based in like Mexican culture or Latin America culture? Does it have something to do with that?
It touches on it. My character does, and I call people senor, not to be, culturally appropriating, but Ricardo Montalban played the movie version.
Huh.
So he is a bandit. He's a genuine bandit.
So in other words, you are appropriating. Are you appropriating? I got you right now. I got you. You are guilty of appropriating.
But not as El Gallo, because that is the character, the persona of El Gallo. I go into situations to steal people's fancies in order to move them onto the journey that they wish. I'm like a hired gun to create awareness, illumination. In this case, and this is Tom Jones' script, it's Romeo and Juliet of these two divided houses, but it's very different because the fathers want the kids to get together. So they sort of hire
Is it funny?
It's very funny.
Okay.
But in the notes, and I've never done a play that has such specific notes, Tom Jones says this is not a musical comedy. If you find yourself choreographing the play, you don't understand it. And if you're playing for laughs, you're not doing the Fantasticks. Now, at the same time, these situations, and even what I explained, the families deceiving each other in order to bring the kids together, is funny. There's funny things.
And when did you meet Jesus?
You really, well, he's sort of a Jesus-like figure in a way. He only exists as you need him. Huh. So it's a wonderful role. It's maybe the best.
I can't believe it. I mean, I know it's been around forever. I had never seen it. How come it's not a movie? Is it a movie? Oh, you just said it as a movie.
Well, yeah, Ricardo. I saw a TV movie, and John Davidson played the young man, as I recall, unless I was tripping and I have a.
Is John Davidson? Memory. He's not with us anymore, is he?
I'm pretty sure he is. He's not.
He is.
Old. Yeah,
I wouldn't think he was that old. Just you really haven't heard anything about him.
Well, no, but people haven't heard that much about me. I'm not that old.
Do you think we could look up and see if John Davidson has a podcast?
Probably does.
Yeah, he probably does.
I would guess he's, Kenny, the people that we idolized when we were kids were basically 15 years older than us. So that puts people at about, 80?
Okay, you know me in math. Okay, but go ahead.
The Beatles would all be 80.
Oh, but wow.
So that's pre-death.
Yeah.
There's still 10 years of.
Aren't we all pre-death?
Oh, yes. Well, yes and no, because this is my least favorite subject in the world.
We don't have to go there. I'm just saying.
Well, so long as I feel like I'm not at that threshold yet, I feel like I don't have to think about it.
Oh, you can't.
I feel like that threshold is about 80, 85.
Damn. Well, I don't know if you know George Shapiro, who was
yes,
is Seinfeld's manager and a manager of a lot of different people, many clients who did our shows. He just passed away at 91. And so now we're getting it. And I do believe it's like every time I go on my Facebook page, it's starting to feel more and more like an obituary column.
Well, yeah, it really does. I mean, Ray Liotta. To look at Ray Liotta in the last couple of years, you were thinking he doesn't look healthy. That looks like a bad heart to me.
I was shocked that he was exactly my age.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought
he didn't look healthy, but at the same time, at 67, I don't expect anyone to die. You can even live with a degree of unhealth.
I know it's not nice to speak of the dead. I don't know why. Why is that not nice? Because they
don't know. Because somebody loves them and remembers them.
Oh, yeah. No, but if I don't say it in front of the person who knew them.
Yeah, right.
That's fine, right?
Here, you're fine.
Yeah.
Say what you will.
Nick Field, who was on this show. Nick Field, who's a showrunner, done a lot of shows and what a great writer. Nick Field was the showrunner for Shades of Blue, which starred
Shades of Blue.
Jennifer Lopez, and Ray Liotta.
Right, Shades of Blue.
And Nick would tell me the most horrific stories about Ray Liotta.
Really? Like not a nice guy stories?
I think initially he quit And they couldn't find anybody else to show run because he was just like impassable. And they paid Nick a lot of money, put him on a first class planes back to New York like every weekend to do the show. But he said he was on a daily basis. Ray Liotta just beat the hell out of him. He just did it for the money.
But lots of people, right? Not just Nick. But
Nick's version was he said to him that he took it out on him, and that it was really the worst experience he's ever had.
Was that right? Yeah. No, this doesn't contradict that at all. I never met Ray Liotta, but my neighbor, good friend of mine, Ingo, an actor, he was on a regular basketball pickup game with Ray. Mm-hmm. So he just loved Ray Liotta, and that was what I always hoped was the Ray Liotta, just a good old,
I always go back to, you don't know the circumstances, you know what's going on in people's lives, so you do really have to give them a little benefit of doubt.
But it is an indication sometimes. I've noticed that when I've done movies and things, the behaviors of actors in particular tend to be the way they behave in that environment. I found, for the most part, consistency. If an actor is picky, condescending, they tend to be,
It occurred to me that when I heard one of the clips he did, they asked him, how come Martin Scorsese never had you in another movie? Because usually Martin Scorsese brings all the same people back. And you could tell by the look in his face, Ray Liotta was like pissed, and he knew it. And then he, like in a really weird way, goes, you better ask Marty that question.
Well, that's interesting. That's probably a good barometer for whether or not a person is easy to work with.
Yeah.
Does that director hire them again? And when they don't,
that's a little fact.
Well, may he rest in peace anyway. I even liked the Chantix commercials, although you could tell they were to stop smoking.
Oh yeah, and you know who else does? Well, Cyndi Lauper does one too. I've seen a commercial.
Yeah, but you know what? You pay about $6,000 for this medication to satisfy your nicotine urge. Mm-hmm. But every expert says, I'm not a smoker and I never had to quit. Mm-hmm. But every expert says, but when it's over, you've just got to keep taking it. It doesn't really curb your interest. The only thing that'll stop your addiction is to stop your addiction.
Well, I will say this, because I was a smoker for many, many, many years. And I always tried to quit, and I could never quit. And I tried everything. And then when I had no more choices, I started to do the patches.
Yeah.
And then I would fail. And then I put like 2 patches, and then I would fail again. And then I'd do like 2 patches and chew gum. And then I would fail. And then I would do 2 patches, gum, and whatever else. And then the doctor gave me Wellbutrin. So now I'm on pills. I'm on patches.
You are still?
No. This was years ago. But that's what got me off. And it worked.
So an antidepressant, or just to change your serotonin.
Okay, whatever changed.
Uptake inhibitor.
Okay. That and all the patches and everything else that I took worked. I had to do everything.
Were you able to have sex during that time?
I couldn't stop, Gary. I couldn't stop. Because if I stopped, I would have a cigarette.
Really? You were a smoker when I met you, weren't you? I seem to recall.
Well, one of the things about directing is the worst than that is that there is so much, as you know, is hurry up and wait.
Right.
All right, we got to get this done. We got to get this one. You turn to the lighting guy. How long is this going to take to get done? He goes, give me an hour. We can go, an hour. Oh, okay, well, we'll all sit over here and start smoking cigarettes.
See, I can kind of remember going into the truck and feeling it was a little smoky.
You could smoke cigarettes in the truck. You could have a martini in the truck. It was a different time. Yes.
Well, speaking of the truck and Comic Strip Live, I think it's somewhat interesting. I went to Top Gun. I don't know if you've seen it, Maverick.
No, but I posted on Facebook just a minute ago. Did you see what I posted?
I saw that because I posted a picture of me and 2 actual Top Gun pilots.
Right, I saw that.
You probably took the picture, Kenny.
Oh, okay.
And it hangs in my office to this
Yeah.
day. I mean, I've always.
I mean, that was really cool, wasn't it? That
It was
pretty cool.
really cool. And
Yeah.
it was just a few years after Top Gun. So the Navy has a resurgence. Top Gun is still just part of the culture.
I know.
It was really spectacular.
Yeah. That was a very cool thing. And like I said, I'll for the people in the podcast, I'll edit in pictures of it, or maybe in a clip. And if they catch us,
Kenny, we would do specials. And I'm going to give, kudos to you. I think this was the last special we did. We did a special first at San Quentin.
That's right. That was unbelievable.
Well, that was an unbelievable show, but an unbelievable experience too. Ugh. I remember standing waiting to go on to start the show. And and I think Charles Manson was probably watching us on closed circuit TV.
Yeah.
One of the guards who was sort of protecting me, this was in the commissary, gigantic, said, "You see those guys in the back? As soon as they're released, they commit a crime so they can be back here. They're the happiest guys in the world. They have relationships. They have sex. They love to be in prison."
Wow. You certainly felt, just going behind those walls, the incredible, all of a sudden, all hope is lost. You feel it just leave your body. And you see the people walking around. They have no hope. They're just functioning. They have nothing.
I remember thinking, I made the decision very clearly. I will never murder anyone. I do not want to be here.
I remember when I was up on stage, I was talking to one of the comics. I don't know if it was Paul Rodriguez, who killed.
He killed.
He killed.
Yeah, I remember him getting on this big guy and he says, "If I'm ever in here, I want to be yours."
Right, exactly. Yeah, he did just a great thing. But I was up there talking to Paul, and there was a guy, a regular looking guy, but he was an inmate, and he just started, saying hello, whatever. And I ended up in a conversation with him. I don't know, but it was a nice guy. He was asking questions. I said, yeah, okay. And I was trying to be nice and funny and whatever while we were waiting to get going. Then I walked back, and one of the officers says, I said to him, "So what's that guy in here for?" And he murdered his family. You're like, oh no.
Yeah. Well,
seemed like a nice enough fella.
This is Attica. This is hard times.
I know.
I got a lot of criticism, or some criticism from people saying, "How could you go to entertain those people? Felons, lifers, murderers, Charles Manson." Mm-hmm. And maybe I struggled a little bit with, I certainly saw their point, but at the same time, they're not dead. It's a horrible environment. They're serving the time, as they should. Is it wrong for us to bring some humor? Not to make light of what they did.
What the reality is,
lives?
If you have ever been a victim of crime, if your family has ever personally been a victim of crime, then yes, it's unforgivable. Yeah. But for most of us, we look at it and go, it doesn't have the same impact. So I certainly can understand
I
anybody.
felt like I was channeling Johnny Cash just a little bit, just to say, okay, let's put some life into this lifeless.
Has Johnny Cash really been everywhere and done anything? I've been everywhere. I've done everything.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. Which
Bullshit.
Is bad Johnny Cash, by the way.
Bullshit. Yeah, but he hasn't.
You want to gas up your
machine?
Everywhere. Don't fuck around with any gasoline. But my segue to all of this is doing Miramar was a breath of fresh air, because here we are entertaining thousands of fighter pilots. And my compliment is,
who else was on that lineup? Kevin Pollak was on that lineup.
Pollak was. I remember.
Was Carol Leifer in that show?
I think Leifer might have been.
I know who.
You sure she wasn't San Quentin?
No, that I remember. Who was San Quentin? Elaine Boozler.
Boozler was San Quentin. Yes. It's funny. I remember Pollak, and the best.
Sinbad
as well. Sinbad. Yes.
Yeah. Sinbad.
But my point is this, Kenny. Mm-hmm. You were given a stage with F-14 Tomcats and you lit it so magnificently.
Well,
I mean,
I
of
didn't
course, you
light
had a
it,
crew.
but what I did was, and it was great. You don't see the picture. I stood in the middle, surrounded by these F-14s, and I was going like this to this. Come up a little bit more. No, come out. No, that was amazing. I wish I had some pictures.
And I'm not taking any credit away from your lighting designer. You had a great crew, but you were the last word on. Yeah, that's the look. To this day, I think it's the most spectacular thing.
It does look nice. It does. And for those out there, it's apparently there are clips of it on YouTube. It's Comic Strip Live at Miramar. And it was
And we
phenomenal.
did one more, which was live at UCLA.
And we did one in did you do the one in San Francisco? We did one in San Francisco too. That was with Ellen DeGeneres. That was a cool one.
I remember I had one joke in my monologue at UCLA, and it was from Bruce Baum, who just did our show. And by the way, I just got his hot sauce. I'll be trying it Friday.
Okay. All right.
And Bruce Baum said to me, "Hey, the first thing you should say is welcome to UCLA. UCLA stands for you can learn a lot."
Huh.
Now, in the moment, I thought it was hysterical.
Okay.
Now, maybe not so much. But Bruce had this way of pitching an idea, just looking like Bruce with the mustache, where I thought, well, this must be comic gold.
Well, I'll tell you who was coming. Oh, I think Carol Leifer was in the UCLA show. And you know who else was in that show? Doing some of the funniest lines. I think
Bill Maher.
Greatest.
Bill Maher.
Bill Maher was on the show. That's true. Gilbert Gottfried.
Yes. And that's when I learned, because I didn't meet him during the SNL period, and he had created the character, right? The voice. I didn't know that he was such a disarming and gentle man. I was directing, and I remember when you're directing and you're calling the shots and you're going to camera 3, ready 1, 2, and all that stuff going on. You hear the person, but you usually hear the rhythm of their talk. So I can tell when they're in their setup and when they're going to, and the beats and the pauses and when I need to be on the shot for the punchline or whatever. But so I hear the material, but I'm not necessarily just like broken up. But Gilbert's had me laughing so hard in the control room that it was unbelievable. I think probably of everybody, he really did it. I loved him. You did specials very, very well.
It was my specialty.
It was.
How's things in the hinterlands? Are you in the hinterlands?
I'm in the hinterland. Huh. I'm in the hinterland of the Bible Belt.
Wow.
Well, the hinterland in my world, just as in your world, in the melon land, I can't get over the latest gun catastrophe. They all are emotionally draining and make us angry that the fact that nothing happens for gun reform, because they can't stand gun control. They see that as, big brother. Gun reform. Nothing happens. I remember being so upset after Sandy Hook. This is the same. But in a way, it's worse because, my God, Sandy Hook was what? 12 years? I mean, Columbine was 12 years ago. I mean, nothing gets done. And it's so obvious. You can't go to Walmart and buy an AK-47 without a background check. There shouldn't be assault weapons in the private sector. You're a shitty hunter if you need one. I mean, it just is maddening.
Well, it is maddening, but all of these things that people, hold on to, as Barack Obama said, they just hold on to their Bibles and their guns.
Somebody got mad at me, not a friend of mine on Facebook, because I have an open presence. Anybody can participate. Said, you know what? I've had guns in the trunk of my car since I was in high school, and I've never committed mass murder. That was their justification for not having gun control, because they didn't do it.
Yeah, I could just see that on a questionnaire. Have you ever committed mass murder before?
Right.
Not that I recall.
No,
I'll take that as a no.
It's like old airport security. Yeah. Have your bags been in your possession? Yeah. Did you pack them? Sure.
Yeah.
They think it's horrible, and they think we're wrong. They think it's the sickness that we have created by being changing the definition of gender, by all of our sort of wokeness. They see that as the sickness, and it's not guns. Guns are an answer to them.
Right.
To fight these things.
And they're angry and they are armed.
They're angry and they're armed, and they like to point that out as if, you know. I don't know,
I'm all for fighting against these people, but I wouldn't do it without weapons.
If it comes down to that civil war, we are going to have to arm up, I guess, right? And it's going to have to be more than butter knives.
Because I'm not going to join in an army that goes, we're against guns.
Right.
So we're all going out there unarmed. Well, I would not join that army.
The Roman Empire was what, 400 years?
Was it?
Well, between 400 and 500 years. I mean, it's hazy on both ends when it ended and when it started, but power was 400 years.
Right.
Well, we're going to hit that really soon.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, this empire is going to burn. It's going to crash and burn. I won't be around, but my progeny will.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a matter of us not being around. They're just ruining my time here now. So they've already ruined it. Everything could have been so much better if we didn't have them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyhow, how's your sex life, Gary? Let's try something different.
Again,
you haven't met Jesus, have you?
I channel Jesus.
Have you ever had a religious or spiritual experience?
No.
Wow.
I've had awakenings. I've had illuminations where the chemistry of my body and my experience make things clearer.
Have you had a revelation?
Not in a biblical sense.
Do you know why I ask about revelation?
No, I'd like to.
So I learned this on this show that I was talking about earlier, Under Heaven's Banner, the one about the Mormons.
Yeah.
What the Mormons believe in is they believe in revelations. Revelations is when you hear something in your head or your brain tells you something. Okay. And you will think, and whatever this command is thing. And if you say it out loud and you go, hey, I just got this revelation, which means I just got it from God.
Yeah.
God just sent, and everybody would, and people go, literally, they would ask everybody, is this a revelation? And people would raise their hand. Yeah, we believe that came to you as a message of God.
Right.
And therefore it's a revelation.
Which justifies anything.
Which justifies anything.
Can you tell the difference between God and Wendell when Wendell is talking to you? Do you differentiate between your penis and,
let me just say,
a revelation?
I have a closer relationship with Wendell. That's for sure. And it's ongoing.
My spiritual journey, to use that overused word, journey, again, I learn things, I have experiences, and I may wake up feeling refreshed or knowledgeable. And that to me is spiritual.
I've never woken up refreshed in my life.
We're very different morning people.
Wait,
Kenny.
You don't get up and immediately pop out of bed and they go, that's a wonderful morning. Put on your slippers and hop downstairs, because I have a very different experience.
I know, because I can't even get you on the phone before 10 a.m. Pacific. Actually, Kenny, I do wake up that way. I mean, wow. I write a lot. I write a column, and I write a lot. And it happens to me I dream what I write. I often wake up, I know this sounds sort of corny, with an article almost fully written. Fully written. I will start.
But you were awake when you were thinking about it.
It was in my dream. I mean, I was
really?
getting REM.
Because I immediately would forget what I wrote in my dream.
This doesn't happen to me every night, but I will have experiences in my dream that I will wake up with and have a certain knowledge going, wow, I can't wait to put that down, or when my wife wakes up to tell her about it.
Yeah.
And those to me are my spiritual revelations.
Well,
now, a Mormon may argue that was God speaking to me.
Right. I get that. But you sound like your eyes pop open. You throw the covers off. You
Look, if I stayed up drinking the night before or worked out too hard at the gym, I'm achy. But for the most part, Kenny, I get up. I don't think about how tired I am. My coffee is already set on a timer.
Wow.
I have a cup of coffee. I read my mail,
You're a real American.
I am a real American. I'm sending you emails at 3:30 your time. You know
I
that.
see that. And I'm not a little get confused because I know there's a time difference. So I'm not really sure whether or not was this yesterday or. But
at
anyhow,
5:30 in the morning, I'm getting stuff done.
Anyhow,
I love it.
I don't wake up like that at all, ever.
I know you don't. I mean, not that I've ever woken up.
I
with you, but
actually,
just have this
and my
feeling.
son inherited it too. We love to sleep. I'm a sleeper family. Yeah, we
You're a
come from
sleeping
a long line of sleepers,
family?
which explains a lot about us. But yeah, ever since, I mean, I don't even think when I was born, I think they kept trying to slap me to wake up. And I was like,
you wanted to crawl back into the womb. You were getting good sleep
what's
in
the
there.
way? No. I would roll over then. Through my whole life. And then I was always like, why does school have to start so early? It's 9 o'clock. I know, but I'd rather go later. Everything. Then when I found out when you got into television production, you have to get up really fucking early.
And that is what to you?
7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, that's early, but now my wife is of the family of sleepers, as are the Seislers.
Yes,
but she is conditioned now because of me.
I'm
I'm impossible to live with if you don't give in to certain habits of mine, and so she has slowly moved that clock to where she gets up at 6 o'clock.
So you've actually changed her.
You're
You're training her.
I've changed. Yes, yeah.
Wow, very good.
Now I
Well
go
done.
to bed ridiculously
Chip.
early too, though,
Right.
and I'm sure you're up to 1 o'clock.
No, not at all. I usually, 11:30, I'll turn off the TV. But then even if I get up early, if I wake up at let's say my eyes open at 7, I'm not willingly going to get out of bed.
Well, when you
laying there, I'm very comfortable. And so it's like, I'll roll over a few times and see if the sleep takes.
Right. So when you go to bed though, Kenny, at 11:30, that for me is first pee. That's the first middle of the night, get up to pee.
Wow. Yeah.
Maybe I'll call you next time.
No.
At first pee.
No, at first pee. I like that though. It's like, I'll meet you at the first pee.
Well, in your mind, we'll have a spiritual connection. I'll be peeing. What else is news, Kenny? I certainly.
You got to tell people why we're doing this special broadcast, just the two of us.
Because this is our last show before we take a little hiatus. A little hiatus.
Well, my hiatus because I'm going to London for my son's wedding.
Yeah, presumably.
What do you mean?
Well, it's been canceled twice.
I know. It's amazing. It can't be.
Not because they're having trouble, ladies and gentlemen who are watching and taking notes. But because of COVID has stopped. And yes, well, you're doing that. And I'm just, after this play and all of the stuff, I just want a month with my wife.
Absolutely.
And nothing to do.
Absolutely. I don't blame you. Yeah. I wonder if it's going to be a long, hot one.
The summer?
As opposed to.
Well, we live in
what else? When I said long and hot,
Kenny,
what else were you thinking of?
Yeah, in the Sahara, I promise you, if you're in, the wetlands, it'll be different. I'm in Iowa. We're expecting a hot summer, but we are expecting moisture, which you don't get.
That sounds so good, moisture.
It does, doesn't it?
But to us out here, we could just some moisture.
I haven't watered the lawn yet, Kenny.
We just went on restrictions today, once a week. We go down to once a week.
Does a patrol car go by? And
no, I think if they can just monitor your
consumption.
Yeah,
your meter.
They know what I'm up to. Well, actually, I'll tell you this, and they probably do know what I'm up to. And I can't imagine anybody who doesn't care about lawns being interested in this. But you like lawns. You have a lovely lawn.
I have an acre.
So I got a call, an offer from the water district here saying you can get a rebate if you upgrade to this new high-tech controller for your sprinkler system. Okay. And you get this amount of money off and you get a rebate. And I said, cool. I signed up for it. I got it. They send over a technician to put it up. It's all connected on my phone. I can control all my sprinklers and everything now is just with my phone. I don't have to do anything. It's phenomenal. And it takes information from all over the area here of all the computers and all the ratchet devices to determine how wet and moist the ground is. Therefore, it will determine based on weather, everything, the geological this and the thermal that, whether or not they should reduce that section by this much or put it up this much. It's amazing.
Now, what is it called again?
The ratio, RACHIO.
Ratio. Why ratio? That sounds like one of those pills that you get with all the disclaimers.
Well, isn't that a nice thing to say about the Ratio family?
So it's a family. It's a terrible acronym. I promise you. So now, does it monitor if you have aquifers and things like that underneath your lawn?
If I had an aquifer, I wouldn't even know it.
We see, here's what we have as people start to tune out, go away. My yard is covered in aquifers, and you can all see the greener grass. There's a river system underneath where I live. Not just me, but this entire town.
You're saying, when you say aquifer, it's a pipe?
No, they're natural aquifers. They're just like underground rivers, like veins of water. Between water systems, between major rivers.
So they're not man-made.
No, not at all. This is absolutely natural.
Okay.
And so I don't water that much at all.
No, I know. And that's goes back to the same old conversation we have, which is send us water, Gary. Send us water. What
are your plans besides the wedding this summer, Kenny? Since this is our, goodbye for a month or so. Well, what are your plans besides the wedding?
Our anniversary is April 30th. Then is Mother's Day, like the 10th or 11th. And then her birthday is the 13th. So that April, from that date, last day in April, through the 14th. This is I call it my Bermuda Triangle of holidays. Because if there's any misstep, as I navigate through the anniversary birthday,
you are lost in a cloud of
then you'll never see or hear from me again. So that is the Bermuda Triangle for Deborah. She's
Mother's Day, anniversary, birthday. But isn't that to your advantage? At least I have to spread these thoughts out for a year.
Yeah, I don't know which is better. Whether or not you just do it, you just go into the stress mode, like in this amount of time, or if I had to remember 3 or 4 months in advance. Yeah.
Well, I just had my wedding anniversary, and my wife and I were very romantic. Everybody knows that we are. I don't need to apologize for that.
Good.
Yeah, but I woke up and
public displays of affection.
Say again?
You do public displays of affection?
We hold hands. We're not gross, but we sit together when we dine out.
Are you in the same generation?
No. I'm a babe. I'm at the end of a boomer like you. She was Gen X. I don't know. I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, I wonder what my grandchildren's, what they're going to name them as far as a generation is concerned.
The Mars generation. Who knows?
Oh, that's not bad.
Well, there's
if it turns out to be that, Gary, you should get something for that.
Well, there's a question.
Okay.
Would you go? Let's say, because my wife and I have this discussion, and I can honestly tell you, if we're going to colonize Mars, you're not going to get back to Earth. Would you go? I would beg my wife, let's do it, because we've had good lives. It's going to shit here anyway. Let's give this a shot. I'd go. Now she wouldn't. So we've actually had this conversation.
Well, here's the thing. So let's say I'm going, you know what? I would absolutely want to go. And then my wife goes, yeah, you should go.
you should go. But I'll never see you again.
Yeah.
Go. Just don't forget the triangle.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is goodbye to everybody, and I've enjoyed this.
This is goodbye, but we're going to have reruns. We might even put some best ofs together.
There will be a Gary and Kenny Twitch idea. I'd like to really do.
Yes, I like this Twitch idea. So there's shows that people who enjoyed this show or other shows can go back into our library. I particularly recommend the Gary and Kenny Show on YouTube, and we would ask that you subscribe. You'll find us on all the popular podcast platforms. Go back, look through our archives, and we will reconvene soon-ish. That's the beauty of this, Kenny. It's whenever we want.
Yeah, fantastic.